Now, again, I'm just going to Command Shift D. And what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to look to create our first real sort of transition here. And what I mean by that is I want to introduce a major new element. So let's, for example, say we want to drop in here at 33 to bring in our sub bass. Now, our Reactor 6 sub bass here is, you know, the old favourite, old faithful Monarch, which I've been using for years. And again, you know my opinion of Monarch. I'm absolutely in love with the thing, and, you know, it buries a lot of hardware for me. It really, really does. So I'm obviously going to get that nice, big, thick, warm sub bass that you heard in the initial thing when we were just playing the loop through, right? Now, what I've got here is I've got the main idea. Now, within this MIDI channel here, or within this MIDI clip, you can see that I've got a couple of different progressions, you know? I've got the, if I just... and it just hangs there, resolves back to D, and then I've got that higher note that resolves an octave up, which just, you know, tickles at the end of an 8-bar. Now, what I've also got is this, which is just straight, flat, D1 held. So, what I would do is I would lead with that, because I don't want to give away all of my musical ideas straight off the bat. Again, I'm trying to hold off on revealing the fullness of everything until the last possible moment. So, let's give an example of that. I'm going to move everything even further back. Okay, move everything to 65. Give us a lot of room to work with. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to slide this over. Now, what I'm saying here is that I'm going to lead with this at 33. Okay, so it means when I drop this, I'm dropping into this. So let's think about that as a transition, right? Any form of transition needs to have some form of change or development. Now, if you think about this here, you know, we have our initial clip just with a kick, goes into a hi-hat. That's a change. Now, actually, it might not seem like a big change, but it'll be a significant change because we're adding something in. So if you think psychologically about when we add something in like a hi-hat, what we're saying is that, okay, we're moving now. We're moving to another level. We're going to another place. And again, when we add that shaker in at 17, we're saying, okay, there's another gear to this. One of the things that I love to talk about with a track is like, it's, you know, for those of you who drive, you know, in the UK or in Europe, or, you know, in America and Canada, it's mostly like, you know, automatic stuff, but it's essentially like when you drive like a stick shift gearbox, a manual gearbox. I talk about this in tracks as having gears in the gearbox. At the moment, we've gone from first gear to second gear. Now, I want to make the transition from second gear into third gear as interesting, as exciting as possible. So essentially, if I'm driving a car, I might throw in a handbrake turn before I change gear, essentially, just to make it a bit more interesting, right? So how I'm going to do that is through a couple of different elements. Now, I know I've said that I don't do any automation before the final part of the track, and largely that's true. However, I do make an exception for something that I call mission critical automation. So when I say mission critical automation, what I mean by that is automation that is critical to let me know where I'm at in the context of the track at any one moment. Because essentially, that section of the track won't work or will not be complete without some form of basic automation. Okay? So, excellent. Ultimately now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit A on the keyboard in Live 10. In Live 9, it'll just be like this by default. And I'm going to literally go into my drum rack here. I've not set any macros up because I've been a little bit lazy. But, you know, what are you going to do? Sue me. I'm just going to click on this here. Because, again, this is going to be my EQ8 for filtering. And, again, I use EQ8s like this. I'm using EQ8. Firstly, there's two concurrent, because I'm using this to roll 20 down just to clean everything up, let that sub bass sit underneath the kick. Excuse me. And then the second one here is purely for effect. Now, yeah, I could use an auto filter here, but I'm not going to, because auto filter in Ableton tends to be a little bit muddier, a little bit dirtier, and it can cause a little bit of distortion in the bottom end as you're rolling up, which is great if you want techno stuff, but ultimately, you know, you want something a bit cleaner in this style with the style of kick that I'm using. So this is kind of my preferred style. So again, I'll just click on there. And again, another little trick here for the automators amongst us. If I need to get something clean going here, that's accurate, I'm going to right click and I'm going to change the grid to 8 bars. Click on that, and you'll see things go really square, really blocky. Just going to hit B on the keyboard, and you can see I can just draw the whole 8 bars in that way. So use the grid to your advantage is the honest answer. And again, I'll knock that to about 177 hertz. Now I've got a choice here. What I could do is just leave it like this, and it'll sound a bit like this. Right? So that's one element to it, right? Another way to actually maintain a little bit of interest here, again, I'm going to go back to, say, for example, I think it was on 16th note, something like that, or I don't know, 1 bar loops. We could actually put a little automation point in here and then do something like that where it rolls in gradually. Now, either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of this clip. Yeah. Cornelia says, yeah, you don't know, you didn't know you could do that with the grid, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, again, it's using the grid to your advantage. Logic users, go to the top corner, you'll see 4/4 and then /16s, because you can actually have the grid in whatever you want, and you can change the grid graduation there as well. We can do a whole thing on snaps as well in Logic, which are super useful and actually gets over a lot of the problems in Logic for, you know, that a lot of people report to me about how these things work. So now what I'm interested in is that this blue clip, essentially, if I move this around, the automation will move with it. So now that has become a modular block, so you can move these things around. And I can essentially utilize that later in the track. Now, another thing I could do is, again, if I was to, you know, if I just go back to there, what we can do is this. I'll have like a darker blue for there. And then if I just duplicate that clip, move this over like so. Again, you can see that. You can just draw that down. And again, I can give that the lighter blue like we had before. And I'll have another tool, another essential blue coloured clip, which blue in my head means, okay, that's got a kick with the low end rolled off. So this is like a shorthand for me that I've always used. So again, I'll just box that over there, which is quite useful. And again, if I decide to use one or the other, we can start to work in this way. So let's say, for example, I just put that back on 170, that'll do. That'll do between friends. What's 20 hertz between friends? Let's just push that to, like, say, that'll do. That'll do for tonight. Who cares who's watching? Now it's going to sound like this. So yeah, I'm using Option or Alt just to drag to kind of curve the automation to give me a slightly different slope. So yeah, we'll do something like that, which could be quite interesting. Now, again, what I can do, if I was, you know, going to do final sort of confirmed automation here, one of the things I would do, I would reach for my send A here. And what I could do is just hit B on the keyboard. And between 29 and 33, I could put a little send in to send A, which is my kind of stock reverb with a kickstart on, a little bit of a 4-man filter here just to make things a little bit more interesting. And I'm looking to try and get a little bit of a build going here. So it'll sound something like this. Now, even if we was to continue that way, that's quite cool, right? Now, what I can now do is maybe move on into the next section. So yeah, I could do, again, Control-Shift-D. And again, this is why you'll see me not doing any sort of major bits of automation here, because I've then got to go back in and I've got to, delete the whole thing. And that can be quite messy through the track. Again, I'm working in blocks here. I've used the analogy quite a bit recently of techno Tetris. And that's very much what this is right now. So what I want to do is just drag our previous clip back in. Again, same 2 sounds. No automation though. That's an important thing. So what I'm actually going to do is look to throw in our next element. But again, we can slot in here with our sub bass. And again, if I was to just, roll the mod wheel a little bit, you'll hear this. So yeah, there's like a really nice basic transition where, again, I could use the send to our advantage here and again, just draw that in. And again, like there's a time and a place for this very accurate mouse-based automation, again, mission critical automation. Although admittedly, I wouldn't do this type of thing until the end. But again, because so many people are asking for advice on transitions, I want you to see it fully fledged and not have to wait for another time in order to see this. I want you guys to see this tonight. So again, from here, there could be actually a whole raft of different things I could do. So say, for example, here, I could just go in and then from here, I could actually take these last 2 kicks out. Actually, let me just move you over there. So what you get is that build up, and then you'll hear this very, very consequently here. So yeah, really nice, really tense, and just lots and lots and lots of momentum. So this is like a really, really nice starting point for where we're going to move from here. So again, as a basic transition, that's basically what we would do. Now, I could do something really interesting here where I could throw in, some other effects like, other synths that kind of do like, filter rolls and stuff like that. And I could actually do something, here with like a clap, or something like that, or a rim shot or whatever. I could do all of that stuff, but we'll get to that. So now, again, we're 1 minute 15 just over into the track already. So what I'm going to start looking to do now, because again, we've actually managed to get through the first minute and almost not give anything away, which is quite cool. So again, we can start to bury through the rest of these elements now. So what we've got here, and again, this is very much about a rhythmical thing here. where if I was to just play this now in its solo state. So what you can hear is this really lovely, like, kind of very simple but very acoustic, very organic sounding drum kit. And this is something I've been using for a good while. Studio Drummer from Native Instruments, part of Complete. And yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this thing. Like, it sounds great. Used it on a number of my tracks. Used it on my Bedrock EP this year. And pretty much, a lot of tracks that I've written over the years, right? So in terms of what has gone on here, this is like a modified groove. So again, you get these MIDI grooves where if I hit play, it's a very kind of like, pop, sort of very dry, very linear kind of thing. But I do like the rides. So what I've done is I've adapted that. And again, what's great is that I can take this and I can drag it and drop it in, as you can see, as a MIDI clip. It works quite well. So what I've done is that I've done that, expanded it out to 8 bars, and then if I fold in here, taking the kicks out, I've got these lovely little rim shots, a snare which we can get into in terms of rolls and stuff, lovely low tom, and again another little rim shot there. And again, that also reminds me that we have, rides of our own, low toms and stuff to bring in, and a clap as well. So what we could actually do here is add in another level of power. So we could actually start with another hi-hat, but what we can do, and again with the power of actually just muting things rather than deleting them, we could actually try different combinations here, where at the drop we could actually put different things in. I mean, I think the hi-hat's probably still going to work. Okay, so Marcos has just asked me how to drag the MIDI data again. Super simple. Might open up. Now, what you get within Studio Drummer, if I just sort of zoom in here, what you'll see is that you've got this section here where the groove is. Okay, you've got a little target icon here, and what you can do very simply is drag, click and hold, drag, and then it creates a MIDI clip, and then you can literally just drag that in, drop it in, and there you go. Like, there's your clip right there. So again, if I just sort of move out of there, you can see there's the clip. So yeah, super simple, very, very easy to do. And again, you get an outrageous amount of grooves here that you can kind of modify yourself. And I have actually used, some really nice fills here. So like, say for example, if I go to, within Contact here, if I go down a bit, what you'll hear is that I've got sort of like 5 fill variations for the same kit, so I can play stuff like this. So again, I can take that as a clip, drag that in, and there wouldn't be anything stopping me from I'm going to take the kicks out, and I could actually utilise that in that little gap there. I mean, I'm not really sure it's going to sound any good, but we can give it a go, right? Actually didn't sound that bad. I mean, I'd probably want to refine it and work with it a bit more. But again, if we look at this entire thing as a transition, when I worked with Junkie XL back in sort of 2013, he always liked to talk about what he called turnarounds, which is every 8 bars, something's got to be changing. Something's got to be moving in and out. Something's got to be arriving. Something's got to be leaving. just keep things interesting and keep things moving, you know? So again, stuff like this really works well, you know? So let's just give that a little bit of an extra listen. Actually, I can live with that. I can live with that. So yeah, rather than, again, if you think about it, there's a pattern forming here in a lot of the masterclasses that we've been doing here, which is, you know, you can either sit there and go through endless folders of sample packs that everybody else has access to and try and find the perfect audio file to fit that particular gap, which is akin to like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Or you can utilize tools like this and others like them, you know, because there is a few others, you know, there's Easy Drummer, there's Addictive Drums, there's Slate Drums, that kind of thing. And, you know, anything that can allow you to kind of get those kind of fills going. And again, if I was to go back to Contact for a second on this front, you know, I've used this quite liberally across a lot of tracks because, again, if I sort of play through here, if I play this, especially if I just find, there you go. So this note here is just like a kind of a brushed snare kind of, you know, roll. And then the key next to it is an actual snare hit. So I can actually do something very similar here. I could modify this MIDI to make it even more interesting. So let's say, for example, we find that. This might not be right, but there you go. That works quite well to add a little bit of extra tension. And again, I start, you know, working with that a little bit on the reactor. Very, very tasty.